Hey fish friends, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Today I am obviously not in my fish room. I flew all the way from California to Chicago to see Kasia and check out her fish room. So a lot of you may be familiar with this fish room, Creative Pet Keeping. Kasia's been on YouTube for a long time and does lots of videos about fish and other pets, but mostly fish. And anyway, today we're going to talk a little bit about her fish room, which is actually in an apartment. So we are in an apartment. We're like on the 5th floor of an apartment building in Chicago, and she has a fish room with how many tanks?
16, I think.
16 tanks, she thinks.
Last time I checked.
Right. Plus there's like room for more, and she's got other stuff like packed away in the closet. So anyway, tell us a little bit about what it's like having a fish room on the 5th floor of an apartment, and how you manage it, how you take care of it.
It's a little stressful because I have to worry about weight. I have to worry about managing humidity so I don't get mold issues. Because in a place like this is very quick, like mold will pop up super fast. So I have to make sure I always have the dehumidifier on and I'm emptying it all the time. I have to worry about leaks. Like I cannot have like a tank crack, because then all of a sudden everything's gonna go down to my neighbor below.
And maybe down below theirs too.
Yeah, like so it could cause a lot of problems. I also have carpet everywhere. So when I fill up my tanks, I know some people will fill up their tanks and can maybe like walk away or do something else. I sit there, and this tank takes the longest to fill. I literally sit on my chair and I just watch it. I watch it fill, because I know as soon as I get distracted, if this overflows, it's gonna get all in the carpet and I can't get behind there to like properly dry it. So in a weird way, like I have to be like slightly paranoid and think about the potential problems that may arise and try to prevent them.
Seems pretty stressful then.
A little, yeah. I feel like if I had a basement, I'd have a little bit of peace of mind, like room for error. I feel like in this situation, I don't. And that's why I kind of worry, because like I want to encourage people to get fish rooms regardless of where they are, because you can always have a little tiny nook. And your fish room doesn't have to be ginormous. You can have little nano tanks. But I also worry that, you know, like this may be too much for a lot of people. Like I sometimes even wonder if it's too, like I've contemplated downsizing before.
I think it's like the right amount.
I've had people tell me I can do more.
You could do more.
And then I've had like situations where like either I get sick or I fall behind a little bit and water changes, and then I have to clean. There's so much work. And I'm just like, oh, why so many?
But the good thing is you do have like a lot of plants in your tanks. So even like your cichlid tank, there's pothos plants in there. So I feel like that can probably help with the water change not happening all the time, right?
Yeah, and I try to, except the Placidochromis tank, I try to understock my tanks as well. I have them pre-planted like this. If like something happened in my life, like an emergency, and I couldn't do water changes for a month, like this would be okay.
Perfectly fine, right?
Like a lot of the other tanks would be pushing it. Like the Pleco tank is a little crowded. This tank is a little crowded, so I have to be very careful. Right. But it's like it's a fine line I'm kind of walking on. Yeah.
So water changes are stressful because you're having to watch. You can't have any spills.
Yeah. And I use the Python, so that helps. I just hook it up right here, so I don't carry buckets anymore.
So everything's going straight to the sink?
Yes.
Okay. And then what about, you said weight is an issue too. So we're on the 5th floor.
It's all concrete, because these are condos. Okay. That like, I keep calling it an apartment, but technically this is a condo. And that helps because of all the concrete, it can handle more weight. Right. The kind of rule of thumb I've been going by is don't exceed the weight of a grand piano, because that's something people have in their house.
That makes sense.
So it's like if I don't go past that, or like what a water bed would be.
How much does a grand piano weigh?
I don't remember exactly, but I remember at one point I looked it up and I was like comparing the weight. Right. And I was like, I was getting kind of close. Right. I also try to spread stuff out. So like right here, I actually have another shelf that's in my closet, and I could have set it up and put more tanks on top. Be a lot of weight, I'm like, because this is already heavy, this is 20 gallon, 50. Right. That's already a lot. And then here, I could do it sideways and stack more, but I'm like telling myself no. Right. So there's a lot of like, I have to practice a lot of like restraint. So I have a lot of tanks because I'm part of the GCCA, which is my local fish club. Right. And every meeting you can win tanks. So there's always tanks to win. Yep. And I keep statistically, if you come to all the meetings, there's not many people at the meetings. Right. The chances of winning are high. So I have like 2 tanks here, another one here. I have in my other closet 2 more tanks are empty. And at this point, if I win a new tank at the club, I just literally decline at this point. I'm like, please pick someone else. So I keep getting more tanks, and I could spread out. Like I could go to the other rooms, but I do worry that managing humidity would start to become a big problem. And plus, if I had to run 2 dehumidifiers, that's already going to raise my electric costs. Like my electricity, like last month was like $140 for an apartment. That's kind of a lot.
Getting
like,
up there,
for a little 2-bedroom, like that's kind of.
I wish mine were only 150 or whatever, 140, but because I think well, it depends, but I'm like 350 is kind of like the summer months, and then it creeps up to 400, 500 in the winter months. So
that seems like my parents are around there, like for like house. That seems to be good, but like for an apartment, like 2-bedroom, that's it. That's kind of pushing it, I feel like. And you know how like in the bills it'll show you like your energy consumption
compared to
your neighbors?
Everybody else.
It's like your neighbors, your energy consumption is like up here because I'm running all of the heaters because I tried heating this room. And what happened is, for the most part, I could keep it at 80, but it was fluctuating because it was hard to keep it stable, and I didn't think it was good for the fish. So I was like, well, if I just put heaters and everything, yeah, my bill is going to go up, but at least I have the peace of mind knowing that it's going to keep everything stable. I mean, there is a downside. The heaters do malfunction, so now there's another thing where I have to check. At least make it a habit of like somewhat regularly checking the temperature. So I can see like if anything's like way too hot than it should be. I could take a look at it. But I mean, if it wasn't for being on YouTube, and this is something I didn't like realize until PecTag asked me that, I don't think I'd have that many tanks. I would probably have like maybe 8 tops.
So you think that you've doubled the amount of tanks because of YouTube?
I think so, because like sponsorships and the fact that, you know, I earn money from videos, then I feel it justifies purchasing more. Because it's like, in a weird way, like it's fueling the hobby, which allows me to make more content for my channel. So it's like it's a good way to like earn more money, but it's also like I'm helping the hobby by providing education. So you get a little more encouraged to do a little more, I feel like.
I get
Where I think I really would probably have like 1 small rack, and it would probably be smaller tanks, and that would be it.
Interesting.
Because I've always liked fish. I like being part of the GCCA, so I knew I'd probably still be breeding.
But maybe not so many.
I don't think I would have, which is kind of interesting, because a lot of people, like, I don't think talk about how like YouTube influences their fish keeping hobby, but I feel like in a way I think it does.
I never thought about that, and I wonder like if I make decisions to add more tanks for YouTube, or if I'm doing it for me. But I think I mostly do it for me, but maybe, I'm not sure, something for me to think about.
For me, it seems to like it's 50-50. So I knew that if I turned this into a big female sorority betta tank, this would do really well. But I like the Placidochromas, even though if I mention them in any videos, it doesn't do well. So I do choose this for myself. I choose a lot of the cichlids for myself. But then, you know, anytime I do a betta breeding project, at this point, it feels like, because I've already bred them once, so I'm like, cool, I bred domestic betta splendens. I like to try different species. But people want to see more betta breeding series. So I'm like, cool, I can do another, like, 1 spawn a year, document it, it's fun, people seem to enjoy it. So that's something, like, I do for YouTube at this point. Like, I will breed, like, my 1 spawn, because that's the demand of, you know, people want to see this. I'll do that for the people. But then there's, like, other cichlids that I keep that, like, people don't really care about. But I really enjoy
Or maybe
them.
they don't know to go to your channel for those, right? Because they're watching like the cichlid channel or something.
They could be, because another thing, people do think that my channel is like an all betta channel. Which makes sense, because most of my videos happen to be mostly about bettas, because I feel like there are betta channels out there, but since there's not many of us, there's a lot of content you could be making. I feel like there's a little bit more people in the cichlid side. So I feel like I don't there isn't much, like, I feel like I'm filling in terms of, like, there's not a hole to fill. I guess I could talk about my dwarf cichlids more, because that's my predominant thing. Like, I'm in my club, I'm trying to get my points for my BAPs, and I'm trying to, you know, kind of get my first beginner breeder plaque. I'm 1 more away. and I have to keep small cichlids.
Right.
I have to find the little ones, or something that will like work in a 10-gallon with a pair, or that I can like rotate out until I get a pair, and then sell the group to like anyone else in the club, breed that pair, and then sell. So I have to like kind of get like weird and creative with that, and I've made videos about that, but they never really do. It's always the betta videos.
Oh, it's the bettas, yeah.
Bettas and shrimp seem to be doing well for me. So,
which I don't do much of either. You guys know I made my little joke about the water bottle betta video, but other than that, I don't do a whole lot with bettas. So tell me, so maybe tell the viewers of my channel, for those people out there that want to have multiple tanks, and maybe they don't have a basement like I do, or I can have like infinite, you know, water. I can spill 10 gallons on the water and it's not really an issue because it's just concrete. I just sweep it up or throw some towels on there.
Nice.
But for the average person that maybe lives in a condo, lives in an apartment, doesn't have like a fish room, what advice would you give them if they want to have more than just like one tank? Like what maybe give them like your top 3 pointers on what to do for maybe not a full 16 gallon or 16 tanks in a bedroom, but what would you do to like give them some pointers?
Well, always be careful. So I know it's very tempting to impulse buy stuff. I struggle with that all the time. But I feel like in this situation, it's good to kind of pause and plan a little bit. So one thing you can do is kind of look at your space and be like, okay, in this nook, maybe I can fit like 4 tanks. And if those tanks are all 20 gallons, you can be like, well, a gallon is roughly like 7 pounds. So you can calculate the weight for that specific area, and then you're like, maybe there's a lot of weight, and you know, I don't know if my floor is very stable, so I can spread them out. So you can do 2 20 gallons on one side, 2 20s on the other side of the room. So you're already like, you can plan to like move the weight around a little bit. Check, you know, what everything is made out of. If there's going to be a spill that can happen, are there things you can do to like protect your floor? I know that some people can put down some plastic. You can be very paranoid like me. Just watch when you do all your water changes. Just be careful. I usually put down like a towel. So like once I'm done using the towel for the week, like I'll use that as my like extra water catching towels. I always put that down. I have a dehumidifier, which like helps get any of the humidity, because you're gonna splash. You're gonna get like water on the carpet. It happens. So be careful for your weight. Also be mindful for how much electricity your place can handle. Because not only you don't want to like put too much, and heaters will take a lot of electricity. So think about the heaters, because those will take the most. They'll take more electricity than filters and lights. And if you want to save some electricity on not on heaters, but on filters, you can do like airline system. So have a one pump power multiple tanks. That will help. What can be another thing? So with the weight, spacing them out, with electricity, another thing I guess is really important is fire hazards. If water can get onto anything, or if you plug too many things, like this can be, people's houses burn down all the time because of electrical problems. That's like a nightmare I have all the time. I try to hang all my outlets. When I had Rob from Philip Aquatics, he's an electrician, I actually had him take a look at my stuff. I was like, he's like, oh, I wouldn't add anymore. Like, don't add anymore. You're gonna push it. So like, you're good. Just no more. And I'm like, okay, that's really good to know, because that can be like whenever you have fish, like it can be a wonderful and relaxing addition to your hobby. But you know, there's little things here and there, and I don't want to like make you paranoid and have to worry about, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna fall through the floor. But just less is more. Try to do a little less and see how it's working out for you, and like you can slowly add something here and there if you want to. Just be careful, you know, when you have furniture, make sure like reinforce things so it can handle the weight.
Earthquake straps if you live in California.
Yeah, that's something I don't even think about. I mean, my racks are actually screwed into the wall. So when we have friends over, I always have this, like, another thing I'm scared about is, like, you know, when kids like lean on things
climb, or
they want to climb. And I'm also clumsy, so I go on my ladder. Let's just say I lose my balance and I grab onto this. Like, it's at one point or another, I feel like it's gonna happen. And when you have tanks up here, it's wobbly. It's very easy for things to topple over. So my racks are actually screwed into the concrete wall.
Okay.
So they're not moving, and
Nice.
they're also screwed to each other. So this whole thing is like attached. Like it's
Nice.
not moving.
Good.
So if I'm gonna fall, I can actually grab onto this. Obviously,
You don't want
I don't
to.
want to push it. I'm not
Right.
gonna try.
Right.
But it's there. Like I try to think about these things, but overall, like I still stress out a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to stress, just get a little tank. Keep it small, maybe like 10 gallons, because 10 gallons is not that huge of water damage.
Right.
And then invest in a better quality tank. So I really think it's amazing that like Petco does $1 per gallon, because it makes it very accessible to buy tanks at an affordable cost. But those tanks aren't the best quality. You're getting kind of what you get for the price.
Right.
I mean, I love them, that's all I'm using.
Yeah.
But eventually, like, the seams can break. So you can buy a more expensive, higher quality made tank that is really
Right.
sturdy, and that will help prevent cracks from happening.
Or like a nice acrylic tank or something like that.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Like, you can get something that's nicer, get one that's like really well made, and you don't have to worry about that thing cracking. Especially if it's a smaller tank, there's less water pressure.
Right.
And if you don't have like rocks that are like leaning on anything,
Right.
like me leaning my phone rock on the side.
Yeah. Great.
So there's like a whole.
So how can they find you if they want to follow you and your channel? And you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube.
I'm on like everywhere. I even have a Pinterest.
Okay.
So I am Creative Pet Keeping on YouTube, Creative Pet Keeping on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. The only different one is on Twitter. I had to be Kasia Pet Keeping because Creative Pet Keeping was too long, and it didn't fit.
Oh, it didn't fit.
It didn't
Yeah.
fit.
Well,
So yeah.
Great.
I hope you'll check out my little tiny fish room.
yeah, well, check out her channel. Make sure you stop by and check out her. I'll put a link down below with her channel, and check out her videos. A lot of good stuff in there. A lot of informative videos. So if you're looking at, maybe learning a little bit more about the hobby or a certain kind of fish, breeding bettas as an example, check her out.
Yep.